Hi, everybody. It's Maxine Taylor with my Trumpology report for October 2018. And this is a very interesting month because as you know, we just had the Kavanaugh hearings, and the FBI is going to be conducting an investigation for 1 week, which is the plan. I'm going to give you the forecast for Trump and for the United States, and then you tell me, well, you'll be able to see whether it's going to continue for a little bit longer or if they're going to be able to complete it in a week. Okay? It's either or. All right. Let me first of all start from the beginning. Here's what's going on. Check my website, MaxineTaylor.com, about mid-month for a new special. You're going to want, you'll want this because it'll help you get through all the holidays. Okay. Now, cosmic events. Mars comes out of the shadow of the retrograde, yay, on October 8th. Now you remember, Mars rules action and energy and passion and sex, and let's get going now. And when it is in the shadow of the retrograde, it's still not fully functioning. On the 8th, look out. Another thing that happens on the 8th is the new moon. The new moon, Monday, October 8th, is in 15 Libra 48. Find 15 Libra, 15 degrees of Libra, 48 minutes in your birth chart. This is where the action starts. This is where energy starts moving. And again, if you do not have a copy of your birth chart, go to my website, MaxineTaylor.com. Send me a note saying, please send me my birth chart. Here's my birth data, month, day, and year, city and state, if you're born in the US, otherwise city and country. And the exact time you were born, and I will send you an actual copy of your birth chart. It's not the interpretation, it's the chart itself, so that you can interpret for yourself. Okay, new moon, Monday, October 8th. Yes, we love it. 2 weeks later, we have the full moon on Wednesday, October 24th in 1 Taurus 13. Let's call it 1 Taurus. Find 1 degree of Taurus in your birth chart because that's where things will come to a head. And by the way, on October 24th, that's the night of my full moon ceremony at the Phoenix and Dragon here in Atlanta. You are all invited. It's free of charge. It is fabulous. It's just a wonderful ceremony. No charge. It's my gift to you. Now, I mentioned to you that Mars comes out of the shadow of the retrograde on the 8th, and so we're ready to leap forward. But I've got to tell you what else is going on. October 6th, Venus, the planet of love and money and beauty and art, goes retrograde. It feels just like a retrograde Mercury, so everything is confused and unsettled. You would not start any new projects dealing with Venus-related things. You would not start a new painting. You would not anything relating to love or money or beauty, unless you are redoing something, in which case go for it. Otherwise, a new project, Venus goes retrograde October 6th. That's 2 days before the new moon, so everything's on hold. It will stay retrograde until November 16th, when it will go direct at 25 Libra. Find 25 Libra in your birth chart. That's where it starts moving forward. The only thing is, Mercury also goes retrograde on the 16th, actually literally the 17th, a few hours into the 17th, but we feel this about a week ahead anyway. So Venus goes direct on the 16th, Mercury goes retrograde on the 16th. Double confusion. You're not going to start new projects until after December 6th. That's when Mercury goes direct. So Mercury goes retrograde on the 17th in 13 Sagittarius. It goes direct in 27 Scorpio. So from the beginning of October until the second week in December, you're not going to start a new project. Instead, you're going to tie up the loose ends of unfinished projects or anything that is a do-over, so to speak. I hope this is helpful. Now, let's talk about Trump's chart. We will start, I've got everything in a stack right here. We'll start with the sun, shall we? Wherever the sun is, that's the area of your life that lights up. So money, sun is in his second house, it's been in his second house. So he's thinking in terms of money and possessions. And if a person is a possession, they show up in that second house. By the way, I'm always throwing out astrological tidbits for the astrology student. Okay, there we go. Well, on the 10th of October, the sun sits on Jupiter. Jupiter's the great benefic. It brings abundance. It's in his second house of money. Now, Jupiter rules his fifth house of children, of games, of fun, of sex. It rules his eighth house of other people's money as well, which is very interesting. And so there can be money through other sources. Eighth house can be hidden sources. Then the new moon, of course, on the 8th, sits in that second house, amplifying it. We love it. And then it moves into the third house where it just gives him all kinds of ideas. And he's talking. And I mentioned this last month also. I think it was Mercury that was in his third house, just talking. And some of you had said, well, he's a talker. And you know, he's been talking a whole lot more about a lot of different things. He's changed his approach a little bit in light of the Kavanaugh hearings. Hasn't perhaps tweeted as much, but with the sun in that third house, expect lots of communication. Sun in the third house makes you a disguised Gemini, so you've got lots of ideas. You see both sides of every picture, and you change your mind on a dime. Okay, so the full moon is in his ninth house. That deals with people, foreign lands, travel to foreign countries. It deals with our philosophy of life, with the principles that we believe in, higher education, etc. So this is him seeing a bigger picture, and this can deal with foreign trade. So the tariffs may come up one more time to be dealt with. Since this is a redo time with Venus retrograde, this might be a good thing. It just depends on what he asks for. Okay? Now, Mercury. In October, it is not yet retrograde, so yay. It's sitting in his second house, and on the 2nd, it triggers Jupiter, just like the sun will on the 10th. So he's thinking of money. He is talking more. Mercury on Jupiter and Jupiter on Mercury. They just, all kind of ideas, all kind of travel, all kind of chatterbox, blah, 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 blah. Okay, wherever Mercury is what we think about and talk about. His money, his ideas, as it moves into his third house on the 4th. So he's communicating more. That talking thing is still going on big time. And on the 26th, Mercury moves into his 4th house of home, family, real estate, and that's where his focus will be, communicating with family members. Now, his family members are in the news very often, so that could be a reason why. It could also be some of his properties, because that's the 4th house of real estate. All right, he may be thinking in terms of buying or selling a property. Again, Mercury is just what we think about. It's not necessarily the action. So let's take a look at the action. Mars. Remember, on the 8th, it comes out of the shadow of the retrograde. It's in his 6th house of work, health, and service. Wherever Mars is what we're angry at, what we're impatient with. And so he can be very irritated with the people who work for him. Even if he doesn't give them a check, if he considers them to be his employees, he can become very irritated with them. Also, he's doing more, he can do more, I would hope, with his own health. Maybe his diet, maybe not eating as much junk food, who knows. But this is Mars moving ahead in the area of work and employees. Now, Venus is going to go retrograde in his 3rd house. Now, remember that Mercury is in his 3rd house, and the Sun is in his 3rd house. So there are a lot of ideas going on. Venus going retrograde in his 3rd house means he's changing his ideas. And you might say, he does that all the time. Well, yes, he does. And this is going to be even more so. Just watch and see. He will probably have a much more optimistic way of looking at things with Venus in his 3rd house, which is wonderful. But remember, Venus is going to go retrograde on the 6th in 10 Scorpio, and it's going to go direct in the 3rd house. And so when it goes direct in his 3rd house on November 16th, this is the time when we might normally expect clarity in his ideas. However, with Mercury going retrograde, though not in that 3rd house, all bets are off. All bets are off. It's a double whammy. It's Venus and Mercury both being retrograde. Shriek. Okay. Now, you might say, well, this doesn't sound too difficult to do. This doesn't sound too bad. No, it really doesn't. And I'm going to throw something in that I promised you I would. You remember those eclipses we had this summer, July and August? We had one July 12th, another July 27th, and another one August 11th. And you remember I told you they're strongest 3 to 4 months after they occur? That's now. That's now, October, November, and December. So let's look at them one more time, because now we have a better idea of what they mean. All right? The first one, July 12th. It's sitting in his 11th house of friends. Now, it's sitting on Saturn. That's the brown planet. Saturn takes his friends very, very seriously. And in a group, Saturn has to be the leader. So he is leader, and he, with Saturn conjunct Venus, he is very serious about his friends. He expects loyalty from them. This eclipse sits on both Saturn and Venus. And so his friends, and he's put them in positions of high places in his business, all of his businesses, not just the presidency. And so this activates friends and group activities. Now, in a mundane chart, of course, this deals with Congress and congressional hearings. But there is a serious note to his friendship circle right now, especially since Saturn rules his 6th house of employees and health, his 7th house of partnerships, and while it's not written here, the interception in his 5th house of children. The 5th house is also sex and romance. And so with Venus involved, there can be remnants of a romance, or at least dealing with friends who are very, very important to him. Does that kind of tell it? Okay, that's the first eclipse. The second eclipse was July 27th, and it sits here in his 6th house of work, health, service, and employees. And so there's always a turnover in the people who work for him, in the people he appoints to different positions. He's made that known. And the final eclipse, August 11th, this is the big one, I think. It sits on his Mars-Pluto midpoint. Mars in the 12th house is hidden anger. Since Mars sits on his ascendant, it's not so hidden, all right? Lots of anger, lots of fighting behind the scenes. The 12th house deals with prisons, hospitals, areas of confinement, but most importantly, hidden enemies. This can make for a certain amount of paranoia because the hidden enemies may be in your own camp. And I think that's probably what's going on. Now, with Pluto, the orange planet, also triggered by that eclipse, it's an out with the old, in with a new thing. And so there can be a lot of behind the scenes shuffling. This is exactly what his presidency has been about. It's been rekindled. And so there it is. Let me see if I've left anything out on that. Because of all of the information coming out of the White House, we now know about the rages, the anger, the fights. I think Bob Woodward's book has been very enlightening. I'm in the middle of reading it. It's very, very interesting because I can see it in the birth chart. So that's what's going on. Friends, work, and just lots of behind the scenes control. It's either total control or transformation. So this is Trump's chart. Now, the one I'm very interested in, and I know you are too, is the United States chart. This is the one that really tells what's going on. Get organized here. Okay, so let's start. And I hope you've written the dates down of the new and full moon. If you haven't, let me just give them to you because I don't want to keep referring to all these papers I've got sitting in the lap. New moon, October 8th, full moon, October 24th. Mars is still going direct, still moving out of the shadow of the retrograde and all that good stuff. All right, so looking at the United States chart, the sun and the new moon are both in the 5th house of children, of sex, and boy, oh boy. This has been the year of sex. Do you realize that the day after Trump was inaugurated was the march of millions and millions and millions of women around the world, men as well, supporting them, marching against inappropriate sexual advances toward women, equality of women, equality for women, and it has really taken off since then. With the Kavanaugh hearings, there are no words. Okay, so here we go. The sun is in his 5th house. It sits on Saturn on the 7th. Now, Saturn in the United States chart rules the 8th of other people's money and hidden things. Hidden things. It is the attitude toward sex, not just the act thereof. It rules the 9th house of international correspondence, international trade, all that good stuff. And so the sun on the 7th and the new moon sit on Saturn. Saturn says, take me seriously, take me tangibly. I'm not kidding around now. That's Saturn. On the 6th, the sun moves into the 6th house. And on the 26th, the sun sits on the United States vertex. Now, the 6th house in a mundane chart, as you know, deals with the military, with the health of the people. It deals with jobs. Basically, it deals with all civil servants, pets, food, and with tariffs, food comes into the picture, with animals, our pets, and of course, police and fire department. So that is what is activated at the end of the month. Mercury, the sun is doing its thing, so I'm going to try and stay out of it while we talk. Mercury, we're looking, is what we think about and talk about. It's in the 5th house of children. And when I think of children, I think of the immigrant children who have been separated from their families. And I still hope, that they can be reunited with their families. And while there has not been a great deal of talk about this, the children who didn't make it, who have died, I hope that their remains are able to be sent to their families. This is a tragic situation, and I don't even want to go there. It's just too upsetting for me. So we're thinking about our children, our schools, school safety. The 5th house deals, of course, with fun, with sex, the attitude toward sex, with children, gambling, the birth rate, let's see, congressional hearings. The 11th is Congress, 5th house, congressional hearings, public hearings, stadiums, and teachers. Okay, on the 5th, it's in that 6th house of work and employees and civil servants, all that good stuff. Okay. Look at this chart. Venus goes retrograde in the 6th house, meaning there's going to be new contracts, new issues that come up with civil servants, the military, the police, fire, just everything dealing with 6th house matters. So they're not going to be resolved. However, this is a great time for a do-over. And this is a really good time to say, time to change the job, time to fix things up. Actually, you don't want to start a new job on a retrograde Mercury, but if you are offered one, take it knowing that it might be temporary. Now look at Mars up here. Mars is action. Mars is the gunshot, okay? It starts in the 9th house of the upper courts, like the Supreme Court. It deals with foreign travel, higher education, religion, science. I mentioned the Supreme Court. I'm saying it again. World trade and universities. Now, on the 4th and 5th, Mars sits on the south node. You know I am a very positive person. And when I give a reading, if I've read your chart, you know I tell you how great you are and all the incredible things about you. In a mundane chart, I get pretty darn literal. The south node can be the area of loss, drain. This deals with foreign trade. As I said, it deals with the higher courts. And so there's a lot of activity here. And on the 4th and 5th, Mars, action, fighting, arguing with our distant relatives, the people with whom we trade. It can also be the Supreme Court issue coming to a head. Now, on the 19th and 20th, Mars moves into the 10th house, and this is the Republican Party. The 10th house is the party in power. And so this puts the attention on the president. On the 26th and 27th, Mars sits on the moon. This is a very emotional time for us in this country, for our president, and for the Republican Party in general. The moon rules change. And so there can be a lot of arguing, a lot of emotional outpouring from the White House, from the president. I want to now hang on 1 second and let's look at the eclipses. The first eclipse, let me get my little notes here. So here we go. The first eclipse was on July 12th. It sat right here on the third cusp. Now, the third cusp, the third house in a mundane chart deals with news, the media, short distance travel, communication, traffic, newspapers, public transportation, and the way the public is thinking. That's what it deals with. So, the eclipse sits on Mercury. We're hearing so much from the press, so much from the news people who are doing, I think, such a fabulous job of sharing what is going on. This is just terrific. And I would say that that wonderful eclipse on the third house cusp reflects that. Now, we have had accidents. We have had wrecks. We always, I mean, anywhere you go, that just seems to be what happens. There can be more of that. And because of it, there can be improvements made in roads, in bridges, etc. That's the first eclipse. The second eclipse was July 27th, and this was the one that was of concern to me because it's sitting on that south node, activating international trade, tariffs, long distance travel, and the Supreme Court. That is exactly what's going on now. That's exactly why I sat there yesterday and today watching from start to finish the Kavanaugh hearings so that I would be informed. All right. Now, this eclipse, of course, is going to be strongest October, November, and December. We're practically into October. And this is why I'm saying, let's just see how long it takes the FBI to do what they need to do. This is not beneficial for us with our international trade relationships. It just isn't. So, higher education is involved, foreign travel, the clergy. The clergy has been involved once again with fifth house matters, sex and children. So all of this is triggered. The final eclipse, August 11th, down here at the very bottom of the chart. This deals in a mundane chart with real estate, the party out of power. Okay, that's of course the Democrats now. Domestic affairs, weather. Gosh, the weather in this country has been just crazy, crazy. Anybody who says there's no such thing as global warming has been living under a rock. Farmers, builders, crops, and seniors. That would be moi. This eclipse, very, very interesting. 18 degrees of Leo. It sits right here. It activates the party out of power. That's what it does. It opposes, now I didn't write it in here. It opposes the moon in the 10th house. Mars sits on the moon in the 10th house. Mars sits on the moon, on the midheaven, starting the 19th and 20th. And there's the president, the moon, the 10th house, the leader. This eclipse down here is in opposition to the moon. It does some other things in his birth chart. Nothing as powerful as that. And so there is going to be some change made in the leadership, all types of leadership in the Republican Party, because that 10th house is the party in power. Keep in mind that with midterms in November, I can't wait to give you the November forecast. You know it's going to be wild. There is a change in our public image. There is a change in the leadership. I don't mean the presidency per se, but all leadership. And of course, I'll give you more information on midterms. I did a video on midterms. It's still out there. I inadvertently erased a bunch of videos I had done, so I apologize. I hope they're all back there now. It's a good idea to keep me off the computer when it comes to technical things. Anyhow, this is the month of October. Remember that Venus goes retrograde and then direct, and the very day it goes direct in November, Mercury goes retrograde. So from the first week of October till the 6th, let's say the second week of December, don't start any new projects, but do tie up the loose ends of unfinished business. I hope this has been helpful to you. If I have not yet done your forecast for the coming year, you're going to want it. My 3 clips special is still up for another week, I think. 1 week left. Maybe 2 weeks. Take advantage of it. And then, of course, check in, because I've got a new special that will get you through the holidays. And so, dear friends, that's it for now. I hope this is enlightening to you. And my blessing is, may the stars shine brightly on you and yours.